everyone, welcome to Plotting and Scheming. I'm Maya Mayo, and I'm here with debut author Joya Goffney, who is going to be releasing, or she's already released, Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry. And yeah, Joya, I'll let you introduce a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Joya. I'm from a small town in Texas. I went to school in Austin, Texas, the University of Texas, and that's kind of where I discovered my love for Black social psychology. And then I guess like after I graduated, that's when I started writing more. And about a year or two after graduation is when I started writing Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry.
Okay, that's amazing. So when you were growing up, who were your main inspirations? Were there any people that you related to that you felt really seen by, or like what were your main inspirations?
When I was growing up, I didn't really have access to, or there weren't many books with Black characters. So I read a lot of YA about white girls. My favorite at the time was Sarah Dessen. I loved all of her books.
Me too,
And,
yeah.
yeah. And a big inspiration for me was the Twilight books. I really loved at least the first one. And well, we won't even get into that. But yeah, I loved a lot of the YA when I was growing up, but I didn't really have much with Black characters until after college.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple different Black authors, and they've kind of voiced the same experience that you're mentioning. Did you like when after college? Did you happen to see like Everything and like This One Is Also a Star, and like did that kind of impact your decision, or was that before you did start writing? I mean, like
I don't really know the timing of it, but I know I read Everything. I loved Everything. I think The Hate U Give was a huge like moment for me. Like I felt the most seen for like the first time in my life. I read The Hate U Give and I was like, this is so authentic and just so relatable. And I'd never felt that before when reading, and I laughed so much. And then before I started querying, like right before I started querying, I came across Christina Forrest's I Want to Be Where You Are. And that was like the first book I read with a Black couple. And I was like, oh, I'm definitely using this as a comp title. So I love Christina Forrest's books.
that's amazing. I actually only discovered her books late last year, and I am writing a book about a Black ballerina. So that was interesting.
Yes, good comp title.
Yeah, I honestly, yeah, I love both of her books. They're pretty amazing. So yeah, that's amazing. So you said you didn't really see that much growing up that represented you in terms of your culture. But you did say you like Sarah Dessen. I am like the biggest Sarah Dessen fan, like stan basically. Like I've met her twice. Yeah, like once when I was in high school, because like my friend won a Twitter contest to meet her, and then like 10 years later after that, which is
so
crazy.
Cool.
But yeah, I always just thought that like her stories had this like special type of magic to them that I didn't really see in the stories I was reading that were about Black young women, which were like far and few in between when I was growing up. So yeah, I was just kind of like, yeah, I love seeing stuff like that, and like I feel like your book, Excuse Me While I Cry, kind of fits that into that little space. So I really enjoyed that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, so kind of like you said, you got while like you're a little bit older, like you're in school, and that's when you started like working like towards publication. So do you want to talk a little bit about that process? Like, did you write a lot of books before Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry, and then when did you just decide to pursue traditional publishing?
Okay, so yeah, so after I graduated in 2016, I started writing this story that was really dark and depressing, and it really didn't have a plot at all. But I feel like it was a way of me just like getting out some of my emotions. And I queried it to about 4 agents. I think I got a few rejection letters, but I realized after sending it and after writing a query letter or trying to write a query letter, I realized I didn't know what it was about and what I wanted to say with it. So I pulled it. I stopped writing that one, and that's kind of when I stumbled upon, or I started reading or writing, excuse me, Why Ugly Cry a while back. I had the idea for it, but I kind of dropped it. And then I reread it, and I was like, okay, this is kind of good. Let me get back to this. So that's how that came. I wrote one book, queried it, pulled it, and then I got on Excuse Me While I Cry.
Okay, that's awesome. In terms of like your querying experience, like how long did it take you once you started querying Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry? How long did that take you, and what was the process once you like found the agent that you were interested in?
Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry, I kind of took my time with it. After I wrote it, I did a lot of rewrites and a lot of sending out to beta readers and critique partners. I did a lot of that. But once I started querying, I queried like one agent, and then I didn't hear anything back in like 2 months. And then that's when I queried my agent, Brianne Johnson, and then another agent. But once I queried Bree, I queried her like at 6 in the morning, and then I went to work, and I got an email back at like 11, and I freaked out. I cried. She was only requesting more, but I cried. I was like, this is it. It's happening. And so then I sent her more when I got home that day, and she sent an email back at like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. So I woke up the next morning and she was like, no, yeah, she was asking for the full. She asked for the full at like, I got that message at 6 in the morning, and I just like, it's the full. And after that, it was like 2 weeks of silence. So I was just like, maybe I should start querying other people now, because there's been
2 weeks. It takes
2 weeks.
Agents like sometimes 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. But she was just like so excited, so I just thought, 3 days or something, I would get a reply, and it was like 2 weeks of silence, and I was like, okay, so maybe I should start querying other people. But then she did reply back. She'd gotten sick or something like that, and she replied back, and we did a call. And
that's crazy. That's such a fast process. Oh my god. Yeah, I've talked to a couple of people, and like I've never heard anything that quick in terms of the querying process.
It was just like out of nowhere, just wild.
Yeah, for me, like when I first started querying, like last September, I my first 2 queries I sent out were full requests that were pretty quick. So I was like, oh my god, and I thought I might have like a similar trajectory to you, but it took a lot more time after that to finally find my agents. So yeah, I know everyone has a different journey, and like I know people enjoy kind of like hearing about different people's journeys and how they get there. So that's why I was asking. So that's really cool to hear. And like Brianne Johnson, like she's a legend. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I was freaking out.
Okay, so kind of continuing along that. So once you decided to go with Brianne, like what was your editing process like before you went on sub, and then you went on sub? What was that experience like? And then like maybe your editing process on sub?
Okay, so after I signed with Bree. She was a editorial agent, so she had some suggestions for changes. I got those turned in about a month or so, and then we did another round of edits. And it was really wild at the time because I was moving, and so I was having to pack, and then we are like literally in the process of moving to the new house where she needed the latest um, edits, and yeah, it was really crazy. She, after I did the edits, it took about 2 months of edits with Bree, and then we went on submission. Um, she submitted to, I think, about 25 editors.
Oh, that's a big round.
Yeah, it was a big first round. And then we got some responses back. I think it took about a month. It was about a month, and then we had I had editor calls or whatever, and then we did like an auction. So it took about a month or two after we submitted to sign with Harper, Allison Day at Harper. Once we signed with Allison, then okay, so like before I got with Allison, my book was like, it was a lot different. There were some things that every editor that read it had problems with, I guess. And I knew what I needed to change. I knew what I needed to do. So after we signed with Allison, I immediately just rewrote it. I didn't even she didn't give me an editorial letter or anything like that. I just immediately rewrote it because I knew I needed to change like this big thing. And I guess it's fine to say back then Carter was the blackmailer. Maybe that was a spoiler, but I'm sorry. Anyway,
that's okay. So, the book is out, so
yeah,
people need to know.
So I immediately rewrote it. I think I turned it in about 2 months later, and then I got an editorial later, and that took like a really long time actually, waiting for the edits. That took a really long time, and then I was editing over like when quarantine and stuff was happening.
Do you remember how long it took for you to get your editorial letter? Because I know a lot of people say that like it depends on like your placement in the year in terms of like where your contract falls. Because people early in the year usually get their edit letters from the agent or the editor that they're working with, because like they might have other authors they're working with that have stuff coming out sooner.
Yeah. I feel like it was a few months.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, a few months. And yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, so cool.
So once you got that edit letter back, like what was that experience like?
It's like, so I hadn't thought about the book for a few months, and then you get this letter that's basically like, we need you to fix this. I just wasn't ready for it. I never am. I'm like, okay, I got to prepare myself for these critiques and to hear. I mean, of course, they tell you the good things and the things they love about it, but you know, you're just, let me get to the bad. What are they saying? You know?
Yeah.
It's like, you got to prepare for your heart to break it just a little bit. I mean, they're not going to tear you apart, but you know, it still hurts a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Not perfect, are you sure?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, you mentioned that like, yeah, you did a lot of like revision before you kind of like went out. So like, yeah, what's your revision process like? Because yeah, I'm wondering if you like did any like official mentorship programs like Pitch Wars or like like author mentor match or anything like that, because I I submitted to all of those. I didn't get into any of them. I got a few requests, but I never got in. And I felt like I kind of had to like take on this role of being my own mentor and figuring out how the revision process works. And I think that that's a really hard thing to do. So I'm kind of curious how other authors could like navigated that.
I had never heard of those programs before. I didn't really know much about publishing or the avenues of getting a book published. I like looked it up one day that you get an agent and then the rest they try to help you with. And I was like, okay, so I need to get an agent. And yeah, so my revision process is messy. It's a mess. I revise as I go, which is probably the worst way to do it, but
that's what I do too.
yeah, it's like I'll be writing the book and like, oh wait, this doesn't work. Let me start over. And so I have like copies of drafts, and I've started just naming them like season 1, episode 2. Okay, season 1, episode 3. Okay, you're making a major change, season 2, episode 1. And I don't know, I'm just, if I get like a what I think is a major change, I'll start over. And if I'm not feeling it anymore, I'll be like, okay, I need to start over because this isn't, it's really bad. It's hard for me to get to the end.
Are you an outliner, or do you kind of just pants and like see if you need to start over?
I pants mostly.
Cool.
I have an idea of like the plot points, but how to get there, no idea.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Do you use like say the cat or like 3-act structure?
Yeah, the 3-act structure.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm just always interested to hear about like those type of things. Like for me, like it was kind of like figuring out like, oh, what are my like strengths and weaknesses in terms of like my like writing craft, and like reading a lot of craft books like on the fly when I got feedback from like betas telling me like, oh, maybe you need to work on this. Like for me, like I'm really bad with setting, so I just kind of like would just be like, they're in a place, let's continue with the scene.
Yeah, I hate that.
But for you, did you feel like how did you kind of identify like the things that you were like good at and like the things that you needed to work on, and like how did you kind of develop that?
Yeah, so one big thing was critiquing books that had been published. So like bestsellers, and what is it about this book that I love so much? Why is it so good? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the flow, it's the tiny details. And so I try to incorporate those aspects. And then another thing was beta reading other aspiring authors. And then, you know, if you're able to look at their writing and critique it and tell them what they might need to work on, then you're like, okay, so what about mine? Am I doing this thing too? And that really helped me with my writing. I did a lot of beta reading. And yeah.
Awesome. How did you end up connecting with your beta readers? Because I think you said that you weren't really aware of like the programs going on, and that's kind of like Pitch Wars and like AMM is how I kind of heard about people that I could connect with to do beta reading. So how about you?
Oh God, I went on Goodreads and I found a group.
Oh, cool.
I found a group of, yeah, like they have like little groups, and there was one for finding beta readers and critique partners. And like, okay, and you post, you know, what your story is about, and people were like, okay, fine, I'll read this.
That's amazing. Like finding beta readers, I feel like is like harder than people kind of let on. You know what I mean? Like
it is.
Yeah.
It's like one of the hardest parts is finding someone to read your work and critique it.
I've only recently realized that like I sometimes like I'll be on Twitter and I'll like during pitch contests be like, oh my God, this sounds great. Like I want to connect with this person, read their book. And then I'm just like, wait, maybe this is not the best idea for me to just be connecting with this many people and trying to read all of their books all at once. And kind of like not knowing if like where they're at is kind of like a good place for me to be trying to beta read their book, and maybe they're at a different place than where my book is as well.
Yeah.
So I kind of like have figured out like just read the first chapter first and kind of like see if you guys actually are compatible. and kind of like have a clear thing of like, what do you want from this like beta read? Is there certain things you want me to like, do you want me to hype you up about certain things? Do you want me to help with certain type of like craft elements? Rather than like just being like, here it is, figure out what
Yeah.
talk about right now.
Yeah, I was really good at just beta reading. I always gave this long critique. I was, yeah, a mess.
Did you feel like your beta readers kind of like got what you wanted, or did you kind of like tell them beforehand like what you're looking for?
Um, I don't think I told them. I was like, okay, could you look at like the plot structure and does this make sense? And I think some people gave me more than I asked for, which was great, and some people gave me less, and
Right, yeah.
it was probably the most unpleasant part was working with strangers
Hard, yeah.
and yeah, like waiting 2 months for them to finish and then just to get like a one line sentence back, oh, this was great or something, and you're like, why, what was this?
Yeah, that is my least favorite feedback, compared to like even mean comments. I'm just like, give me something
Yeah,
mean, just say something.
yeah, how am I going to work on this?
Yeah, it's really funny. Okay, so I did want to ask you about like the direct inspiration for Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry. I've seen a couple interviews with you, so I know this is kind of like based on some sense of reality, but I'm interested to hear.
Okay, so when I was in high school, I would do like a list per year of like social things that I wanted to do. A lot of them were silly things like hug a random boy and go a day only singing or go a day not speaking. But my senior year, I took it more seriously and I did big items like get my first kiss and find a new group of friends. Um, and there was a boy. There was a boy who at the time was like my rival. We were very similar, two Black kids who were considered like Oreos, nerdy or whatever. And we hated each other. People like pit us against each other, and a lot of resentment grew, and we hated each other. But also knew that I could trust him because we were in the same position. So I went to him with my list, and he ended up helping me to do a lot of the items, including get a new group of friends. I mean, he became one of my closest friends, and we ended up dating, and we're still dating, or we're together, whatever. It's been like 9 years.
That is like amazing. That's like a book in itself. That's kind of, yeah, I love that. That's so cute. Honestly, I don't know, like it's just like I've that's just so genuine that you like had that experience together and that you were able to like bring this into like the story that so many people are gonna like be able to see and like relate to. So that's really amazing. Like honestly, Joy, I'm not kidding. Like this is probably one of my favorite books of the year so far. I'm really enjoying it. I'm a bit biased because I can relate really highly to the subject matter, I guess. Growing up as someone who went to a predominantly white school, and kind of like the whole drama of just like, here are my friends, my white friends, but they're just doing these things that are like literally traumatizing for like in ways that at the time I didn't even know how traumatizing it was what they were doing. And trying to navigate that and figure out like, hey, when should I be speaking up for myself? But then I don't want to appear like an angry Black girl, so but I don't want to appear like a pushover. And there's just like no balance to be able to find where people aren't judging you and treating you like crap.
Yeah, like no, yeah, like it's like you have to be a little removed from it to even realize how much something hurt you or how much something changed you. And I don't know how my life would be if I had a book like this at the time that I was going through it. If it would have been like, oh, maybe I should say something. Maybe, these things that they're saying about me aren't okay, or what the things they're saying around me aren't okay, and maybe I should speak up for myself.
Yeah, figuring that all out, I feel like it's going to be really powerful for a lot of young Black girls. So I just really appreciate that. And I feel like even in retrospect, it's like I'm a grown woman, but I was just like, damn, this is like getting like right now. So it was honestly like, I feel like it's definitely something that I needed in my life to be like, kind of like processing some of the stuff that happened with me personally. But yeah, I just honestly like, I just can't get over how cute it is that you're literally like still dating, like that's your man to this day.
Yeah.
Someone like Carter. Yeah, that's kind of really cool. Like right now, I'm like just at the beginning, like with Carter, I'm just like, how am I I know I'm supposed to like Carter, but like at the beginning, I was like, damn, you're making it hard right now. He's calling her Hillary. He's like, you're dumb as shit. Like, I just was like, what? I was having some issues trying to figure that out.
Oh my, yeah, it is. Oh my God.
Oh gosh. Yeah, but yeah, I know you said you didn't have like a lot of examples of stuff growing up that were like from your perspective of like being like a young Black girl and like falling in love and that type of stuff. But you said you like Sarah Dessen. Were there any other influences that you had?
Um, hmm. I liked Ellen Hopkins and
Yes. Yeah.
books. I really liked how those flowed, and trying to think. My favorite book as a kid, I haven't reread it in a while, but Story About a Girl by Sarah Czar.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
I loved that book so much. Um, really anything that she writes, she's a really good writer. I can't really think of anything else.
Were you big into like YA other than Sarah Dessen when you were younger, or like what were you reading a lot as a kid?
YA
Mhm.
entirely.
So you had like Twilight. Did you ever do like fan fiction or anything like that?
I didn't really get into that. But yeah, I loved Twilight. I did.
Yeah, I had a problem with Twilight, and I mean like a problem like I was too into it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's my problem.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Like honestly, it's just so wild seeing like how the YA space has changed since that time. Like I honestly can't really fathom it, and I'm just so glad that there's so much more representation than like when I was growing up and like when you were growing up, because it was kind of like when I was a kid, I would be like reading. There's this series called Animorphs. It's like a sci-fi series. You might not have heard of it. Yeah, it's kind of like a sci-fi series about aliens and these kids who discover like a dying alien who gives them powers to morph into animals. Um, sounds strange,
Okay.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit strange. No, it's very strange. And if you look it up, maybe you don't want to. It's a little bit scary.
Oh. Okay.
The covers of like the books were basically like not 1990s MS Paint of like these kids slowly turning into animals. It was a lot, but there was this one character who's a Black girl, and I really enjoyed her. Like all the books were from different characters' point of views, so it's alternated. So like some of the books were just from this character Cassie's point of view, and even though the author was a white woman, probably one of the earliest like representations I saw of a Black girl that I was just like, this is just accurate. Like there wasn't any weirdness in it. I was like, she's just a girl living her life. And she happened to like be dating someone outside her race, but there was never any weird shit going on. Like it was kind of like, oh yeah, we like each other. There was just nothing weird about it. And their friends just accepted it and it was just fine. And no one cared. And then also they're trying to like kill aliens. So
Right,
it was
yeah.
fine. So that was great. So yeah, I appreciate like having at least that one example. And then other than that, I was like hardcore just reading every Sarah Dessen book that was in my presence.
Yeah.
My favorite Sarah Dessen book is The Truth About Forever. Big West fan. Have you read that one? No?
I think so. My favorite was Lock and Key.
Oh my god, I love that one too. I really, really like that one. Really, really cute. Sarah Dessen actually has some Netflix movies coming out soon, so I'm super hyped.
Yes, I want to. Which book?
It's two different ones. She just had an announcement recently, but I can't remember which ones they were. But I think Along for the Ride was one of them. Along for the Ride, and yeah, it's so wild. And have you seen How to Deal, that movie that was based on like her first two books?
No, I heard that this was a thing, but I have not seen this. No.
That's how I was first introduced to her, because there was like a movie tie-in version, and then that's how those were her first books that I read. The one with like Mandy Moore in the 90s, and the movie is like, it's fine. But the books were amazing, and then that's kind of how I got addicted. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just like so happy that like her legacy has been passed on to like people of color who wanted to see themselves in that same way. I like saw a couple interviews with like Leigh Johnson and like Elise Bryant talking about their love of Sarah Dessen and how that influenced their stories as well. So yeah, it's just like a really like nice thing to see, like Black girls getting those like beautiful love stories that weren't really that common to see
Yeah,
when we were growing up.
that made me think of Casey West. I read a lot of her books too. And when you were talking about the alien books, I thought of Maximum Ride. I love those
Oh
books.
yes,
Uh,
those books were really fun. I like that. Movies were interesting for sure.
yeah, no,
Oh, there was one movie actually. You might, did you not know?
I thought there was, but I didn't know that it happened.
It did happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Let me find that too.
Strangely enough, it was produced by Jenna Marbles, but she never talked about it ever. So I was like, that's interesting.
That says something.
Oh my gosh. No, I like Jenna Marbles, but I was just like, she just never wanted to speak of it ever. That's fine. Fair enough. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so okay. Final question for you. So, or final two questions. Okay, so for like any like younger people starting out and they want to be an author, what advice would you give to someone who's starting out?
The biggest piece of advice I would give is to read. Just to read in the genre that you think you want to write in, and to be a critical reader, to not take the author as God, as I used to. It's like, oh, they wrote this, they got published, this is perfect. It's fine. Who am I to critique this? But to to notice the things that you love about books and figure out why it is that you love that, and also read bad books and figure out why you hate them and what they did that you think you can do better or something.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so yeah, final questions. Basically, okay, so what's some great stuff you've read recently? I'm really interested.
So I wanted to shout out All the Things We Never Knew by Lyra Tamani.
Okay.
I read that one recently and I loved it. It was Houston. It was a Black couple, basketball.
Oh,
it's like, yeah, like if you love the movie Love and Basketball, read that book.
oh my God, I love that.
And I was reading, or yeah, I read Full Disclosure by Cameron Garrett, and then I got Off the Record.
Nice.
That one just came out, and I can't wait to read that one. I got a bunch of new books. I got what is that book called?
What's it about?
Last Chance Books. Last Chance Books? Is that what it's
Oh my
called?
God, is that the one with the competing like booksellers? Or no?
See, I got those two mixed up too. I think Last Chance is where they're the two people working at the bookstore.
They're working at one bookstore.
Yeah,
You know
but
how-
there's competing bookstores too, and I forgot what that one's called.
Yeah, that's kind of like You Got Mail type of vibes. Both of them have
recommended for you.
Oh, okay, yes. I'm so looking forward to both of those. Like, I actually used to be a bookseller when I was like in college, and let me tell you, there was drama. It was like very dramatic. There's a lot of young people working there. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to that. Okay, so finally, I just wanted to make sure that so I will be putting the links for how to purchase Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry into my description. Everyone, please get it. It's amazing. It is so good. And I feel like it really describes an experience that a lot of people who've gone to predominantly white schools have had to deal with in a very unique way. And it's so authentic. So I just wanted to thank you again for coming out, and like, yeah, this has been amazing. Like, I honestly, like, this is just like a really special experience for me, just because I relate to so much to your story. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me. This has been great. Fantastic.
All right, thanks, Joya.
Thank you.